purpose of database management system. So why we need database system and what is in the importance of database system, we are going to look in this particular video. Let's move on to the video. Why is database system important? So that is what we are going to look into this slide. Now, database system arose in response to earlier methods of computerized management of commercial data. In order to manage commercial data in a certain concern, we introduce the database management system. Now let's see what happens before the introduction of database management system. We need to keep all the information about a certain concern. For instance, say a university. So we need all information about instructors, students, departments, courses offering, etc. and etc. So all has to be stored in a computer in a form of files. So when all these instructions needed to be stored in a particular system, so all the information will be stored in different file formats. So every student will be needed to be added with an instructor and a course. So all this information must be stored in different files in the file system. So naturally we would need more number of files to be stored in a system, and all these files must be supported by different application programs. So either we need to update it, delete it, or add any record to the particular file, and everything has to be supported with an additional application program. So this becomes a bigger hurdle while processing all these files. So in order to avoid all these pitfalls that is in the file processing system, we moved on towards the DBMS, that is database management system. Okay. We'll see what are all the major disadvantages that were found in file processing system. So they are: number 1, data redundancy and inconsistency. Number 2, difficulty in accessing data. Number 3, data isolation. Number 4, integrity problems. Number 5, atomicity problems. Number 6, concurrent access anomalies. And number 7, security problems. Now, all these 7 issues were found in file processing system which could not be addressed properly by file processing system. So we needed to move on to the centralized database management system where all these anomalies will be rectified. And we'll see one by one what is those pitfalls and how to overcome all these pitfalls. Number 1, data redundancy and inconsistency. So when we are storing data in different files, same data will be manipulated again and again. So we will have data redundancy. That leads to inconsistency problem. The next one is data isolation. So when do we get data isolation? When there are different files found in different file formats in the hard drive. So we are likely to have all the data in an isolated form, and retrieving all the data in a single unit becomes very hard. So there we find this data isolation. Next one is integrity problems. That is, data values that are stored, numerical values that are stored in a system must satisfy certain consistency constraints. For example, the amount in every account should not be less than 0. This should be ensured. While doing it in a file processing system, it is likely that someone may manipulate all these. So we need to follow this consistency problems. The next one is the atomicity problem. So every entry that is made in the database must or will reflect in many other files. For instance, once if we debit certain data from an account, so that the same has to be credited into another account. So if we have all different files for debit data and credit data, so one file gets updated concurrently, the other file also has to be updated. So this is what we call as atomicity problems. So this cannot be ensured when we do file processing system. Next one, concurrent access anomalies. So what is this access anomalies? There are two different types of major anomalies, that is read and write anomaly. So when many number of users try to access the files, so one person may read a file and another person may write into the file. So difference between reading and writing time duration will lead to anomalies. So this has to be avoided. Next comes the security problem. So when we work on with the data, it has to be secure from the user. That is, when the data is being stored in a hard disk, it is likely that any user can go and check it from the hard disk. That should not be done. So because manipulation of data becomes very easy. So security problem becomes a big question while we use file processing system. So when we move on to centralized database management system, so this access to the data by all users will be restricted. Therefore, we can secure the data from many number of users and mishandling of the files. So these are certain anomalies that happens when we use file processing system, which obviously led us to the uh, database management system to come into existence. Hope you all understood this topic, and thanks for watching this e-content. Thank you.